third episode of Power Talks, where we bring inspiring leaders and innovators to share insights that matter to the next generation of changemakers. In this episode, we are driving into one of the most exciting frontiers of our time: entrepreneurship in the age of Gen AI. Artificial intelligence isn't just a buzzword, it's transforming how we think, create, and build businesses. And today, we are going to explore how student entrepreneurs can ride this wave and make an impact. Our guest today is someone who lives in the intersection of startups, strategy, and education. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul Singh, CEO of Startup Strategies, co-chair of the Thai University program, board member at Everest Labs AI, and a respected member of the Forbes Business Council. Based in San Francisco, Paul has worn many hats: entrepreneur, educator, startup executive, and continues to mentor founders around the globe. We are thrilled to have him with us today. Before we get into the session, I guess you are in San Francisco right now, and sorry to disturb your mighty night intentionally. So, how are you feeling today, sir?
I'm feeling great. My, you know, there is every time is a working time here, so it doesn't matter really. But yes, thank you for having me.
Okay, so now let's start with the big picture. The world of entrepreneurship has always been about, spotting gaps and solving problems. But with Gen AI, the rules of the game seem to be shifting.
Mhm.
So for you, sir, from your perspective, how is AI shaping the way new ventures come to life?
So I think let's step back for a minute, right? So let's look at some history lessons, um, because I remember uh, Internet 1.0 when the whole world was, you know, seemed to be changing around us, and all of a sudden, everybody said, there were people who believed internet was never going to happen, and then there were people who believed that internet was going to change the world. And at that point, me as a young person saw that as an opportunity to say, okay, I think this is probably once in a lifetime opportunity for me to now participate in this new revolution. So one way I could have participated is join another company, which is normal ways that a lot of people do, and hopefully they go somewhere. The other way is to say, okay, are there any problems this new system is going to create? Are there new things that this technology is capable of doing that was not possible before? So one thing very logical that came to me in doing some of my customer research was, hey, people are afraid to connect to internet for their companies because they are afraid that I might lose all of my information because of security concerns and things like that. So we built an internet firewall. That was my first product, and we started a company. So now I look back into, 30 years later, 40 years later, and I think we have a similar kind of an opportunity. There was one opportunity in between called the mobile. And a lot of times, a lot of companies started things in that. I was part of another startup where we started that journey, but unfortunately, we were too early. We were like trying to be at the bleeding edge, and the technology changed from under us. So we have those lessons as well. So some success, some failures, both make you a better entrepreneur. So now we are at a stage where the technology is changing really fast. What you think today is a good product tomorrow might be absorbed by next version of OpenAI or Claude or any one of these. So you have to figure out how do you stay ahead. So the only advice I'll give to people is figure out what problem you're solving. We as entrepreneurs always have this problem. We fall in love with our solutions because we are technologists. All of the entrepreneurs generally tend to be technologists. We fall in love with technology and we say, oh my God, this is so great. You know what? Customers really don't care. They don't buy technology, they buy solutions to their problems. And so, unless you can figure out what solution you are enabling, because this technology has this unique things that will not be possible without, you're not really going to solve anything. And you will not be able to build a good company.
That's wonderful, sir.
So hopefully that was a long-winded answer to your question, but yes.
Well, that in fact it was very informative because you have given two different trajectories. Because you're way ahead of time and you have been working in projects way ahead of time. Right. So many students they assume that if they don't code, they don't belong in the AI space. But we know that it's not true. And in fact, innovation often needs storytellers, designers, strategists, and domain experts just as much as coders. So how do you see a non-technical founders contributing to AI startup?
So here is a interesting thing. I think if there was ever a time for a non-technical founder to actually build a company, this is it. So I'll just tell you a story. So I teach a class in entrepreneurship. I teach at Northeastern University and Berkeley sometimes. So this semester I'm teaching a class on design thinking. And one of the projects I gave to all of my students is, here is an app that you guys have to code no matter what your background is. If you are from the software side of the house, i.e., you're doing CS, then it's a cakewalk for you. But if you're not, you still have to go ahead and build this app. And I said, okay, here are a bunch of tools. You can use any of the vibe coding tools, but you need to experience it. You need to see that now I can build a prototype. I won't call it a final product. Let's be honest. Right? Everybody will say that, but I believe it's not true yet. However, I can build a very good MVP without any background in software engineering. There is no excuse for it. You spend time in tools like, many vibe coding tools. I don't want to name one or the other, but there are many tools. And, you spend maybe 45 minutes. In fact, I have not done my coding in the last 30 plus years. And the other day I just sat down and said, okay, let me just create this app. And boom, Claude just gave me the app in about 15 minutes. There is no excuse.
Right.
In fact, on the contrary, people are questioning, should I continue to study computer science? So we'll talk about that later, but that's where I think the discussions are going now.
Yes, sir. All right. Of course, with great power comes with great, responsibility. And AI arises questions about bias, transparency, and even trust. So student founders, they often get excited about the tech, but many overlook the ethical layer. So what should they keep in mind early on to build responsibility?
So I think even before the responsibility, I want to talk about something else, right? I think people believe just because I sat in front of my computer and I developed this great product, that somehow magically customers are going to knock on my door. The truth is, getting customer is actually getting harder. The reason is very simple. There is no trust. Customer doesn't know what to trust anymore.
Right.
So the trust comes when you sit down with them, when you talk to them, when you figure out their problems, and you actually solve that problem. If I'm only selling it to a developer and I know the developer pain, that's okay. But there are only so many developer tools you can build, right? You're actually going to solve some real business problems, and therefore, sitting with your prospects, your customers, your potential customers, and figuring it out, what will it take to win them? What is the problem that they see? And how do
Right.
I start talking in their language so I can give them an answer? I think that's the first thing. So I would say before they focus on the other things, this is a part that most entrepreneurs, forget student entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs, because most of our entrepreneurs like me, we're all engineers. Right? I was an engineer once upon a time. So what do? Our answer to everything is, oh my God, I'll add more features. But trying to figure out what is it that my customer really cares about
Right.
is very difficult. So figure that out first before you do a single line of code, or at least build an MVP, go around and talk to people and see if they see there is a use for it in their environment. That will give you more learning than anything else you can do in front of your screen. That's number one. Now, to answer your question about, how do I really think about the ethics and things of that nature? Um, Look, there is a real concern about privacy, my data, right? I mean, that New York Times, a lot of the other publications have sued OpenAI and all the other big companies of stealing their intellectual property and training the models on them. Where that lawsuit will settle, we don't know. But certainly there is some unethical issue around it.
Right.
A lot of times the creators are now worried about, like, hey, how do I make sure my code doesn't get copied? How do I make sure my things that I have developed, my videos or my content, doesn't get absorbed by one of the AI engines and I never get paid? So there are companies that are coming in who are trying to offer these solutions now that are starting to happen. I think it's an early part of this effort. Then there is a scare amongst customers to say, hey, how do I ensure my private data doesn't get out in the open domain? Even though every system says, if you sign up to the cloud, they'll say, oh, yeah, if you pay us this enterprise subscription, we will not train on your data. But I don't know. Right? And a lot of times people don't realize they might even send their personal information on there. We tend to share with machines. We seem to trust machines more than human beings these days, right? So we
Right.
we tell machines everything. Something we'll never tell a human being sitting next to us, but we'll go tell the machine. And but we don't realize that there is, at the end of the day, that whole data is coming somewhere and training a system behind it, right? So there is that scarce. There is a problem there that somebody's going to solve it, but it's an area of concern, right? I think there are a lot of other privacy issues around it. Now, in the AI world, the ethical, moral dilemmas are getting really harder on a boundary level. Right? Like, for example, I can go in and say, hey, I want to copy an Uber app, and it will somehow give you a total replica of the Uber app in no time. Now, should you do it? Should you not? I don't know. I don't even have the answer myself. Because if I could look at their app and it is not copyrighted, I can copy it too. So maybe a tool is copying it on my behalf. So why is it different? I don't know. Plus, I think we're going to go through this issues. There will be lots of legal issues that will pop up over the years before this will all get resolved. However, in the short term, the only thing I will tell the entrepreneurs is focus on solving a problem that is uniquely AI is qualified to solve, and try not to, you know, make it in such a way that you don't worry about people's privacy and their data, and don't cross those boundaries, and definitely not cross an ethical boundary, no matter whether it is AI or not AI, right? Because we've seen some use cases where companies got funded and then they claimed to be an AI company, but in the end they were really not an AI company. There were a bunch of human beings sitting there, right? And that's not ethical. That's not moral. Try avoiding that, because as you do this, the confidence in the investor community will go down and it will affect the whole startup ecosystem. So those are things I would say.
Right. It's very good to know about how entrepreneurs should focus on the people and giving them solutions rather than focusing on the product and adding up the features. And also, of course, security and privacy is important. And maybe we can just sit and uh, talk about privacy, but that is actually going to be a talk of the hour, right? Right. So entrepreneurship, like you said, isn't just about the product. It's also about understanding customers and growing sustainability. Now, AI isn't just about codings and algorithm, like you said. It's a business enabler. So could you share how founders can use AI in practical areas like research or customer connections and scaling?
So I think, look, if I'm doing a software product today, I'm pretty sure any good programmer today is using some tools like Cursor or some equivalent tools or Cloud Code or any one of these tools. There's nothing wrong with it. You should use them. That's what they're there for. There is no need for me to have 10 people do the same thing if I can do with less, right? Now, also remember that these technologies are based on probabilities. What a Gen AI is really doing is trying to figure out what is the next word. And sometimes they hallucinate, sometimes they make mistakes. Now, if I am in a business where it is really important for my customers to not depend exclusively on technology. Let me back up. I see many entrepreneurs come in and tell me, oh, you know what? I can run this whole job function autonomously. And to me, that's like an oversell. Why is it an oversell? Because you go into a customer, you commit to them that, hey, I mean, I had a practical experience about 6 months ago, and obviously 6 months is a lifetime in this business now. But some company came to me and said, look, we could do an AI SDR, meaning sales development representative. You don't need to hire anybody. Our technology will take care of it. Okay, this is good. So I tried it in one of the companies that I was involved with. And I was so disappointed after using it for 1 month. I just totally lost faith in that technology. That whenever now somebody comes to me and says, oh, we could do this, I'm like, don't lie, right? Now, recently, another company has come in, and what they told me, similar kind of product. They did not come in telling me that I am an AI SDR, I replace an SDR. They didn't do that. They said, oh, I am an AI assistant for your sales team. So instead of you having 5 salespeople doing this thing, maybe your 3 salespeople can do the job of 5 because I can do these 6 things as a tool to help them do their job. And so far, we are having great experience with that product. So my point of telling you this is that a lot of times we as entrepreneurs have this disease of overselling what we have. But if we oversell a lot, then what happens is customers lose faith. And it takes a very long time to gain that faith back. As much as it is our job to sell our solution, it is also important to not do oversell where the customer lose confidence. I have had entrepreneurs come and tell me, oh, we can do 100x improvements. It's like, just please, be realistic. Don't tell me things that I will not believe. As soon as somebody comes into me and says, oh, what used to take 5 hours, you can do it in 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, you got 3 minutes. I have a clock. You can't deliver. I know that. Because in 3 minutes, I can't even learn your app. How can you create something in 3 minutes? So you are lying to yourself, and therefore you're lying to me. And therefore you are not gaining customer confidence. You're actually going to, in fact, you are going to do more damage to the whole industry, not only to your company. So please don't do that. I don't know if I answered your question. We diverged a little bit, but
That's okay, sir. But I think students need to know all this because
yeah.
we are all in a rush to create and to produce something and to earn money. But it's all money focused rather than giving solutions to the society. But yeah, your answers, it suits.
So I think this is important, the money part that you raised. If you look at every successful entrepreneur, I don't think money was a motivator for any one of them.
Right.
If money is your only motivator, there are many other things you can do to make money short term, which will work for you. Don't go there.
Right.
What is really important is there a problem that you can associate with where you have a passion for solving it? You want to change the world? You want to disrupt an existing market? Something that has bothered you for a very long time and nobody has a solution and you found a solution? Those are the things that have a long lasting life. And I'll tell you why. Entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey, even though it is glamorized in every magazine, because we only hear like 2% of the success stories, right? 95% companies kind of go kaput. So, therefore, it is really important for you to be able to wake up every day and, despite having a lot of failures along the way, to pick yourself up. And the money, if the only reason was money, you're already poor at that point. You're not going to last. You're going to give up. But if you were there for a reason, for a passion, now your goal will make you wake up every day and you will work for it. You will have that perseverance that is needed to succeed. I think startup is all about perseverance. It is about passion, and it is about some level of practicality. I have this formula that I tell entrepreneurs that entrepreneurship is 3 times passion plus 2 times execution plus maybe 1 time practicality. So if you have only passion, you'll go far. You still won't cross the chasm. If you have passion and you add the execution layer very well, whether it is you or a team around you, you will go very far. So that's why you need both.
Yes. Thank you for sharing some bonus points, which is very interesting. And of course, it matters most. And so now let's talk about funding. Now, investors are hearing AI pitches every day, but what actually makes them sit up and listen? Or for a student founder preparing to pitch their product, how should they position their AI ventures in front of investors?
I think it is no different for any other entrepreneurs, right? Because the key is in saying what. So look, investors are willing to put money because what's the investor's goal, right? Let's step back. Investors want to make money.
Right.
Now, if you are going after, let's say, venture capitalists, or which means you are now trying to give them a bigger picture. And if you look at the story of where venture investors make money,
Mm-hmm.
probably 90% of their companies are not going to make it. They know that. But the 10% that make it have to give them 15, 20, 30, 100x the return, so that it wipes out all the losses, plus also gives them profit.
Right.
So they are looking for a company which has the potential to be that next unicorn. However, angel investors may think a little differently, right? They are looking for a quick hit. Maybe I'm okay with 3 to 4x, right?
Mm.
So depending on the investors you choose and at what stage you are, there are different motivations. So depending on who your investor is, you will have to adjust, right? If you are running a small business, you own a shop or a restaurant and you want to raise money from somebody, you're not going to promise them that you will make it 100x. You might end up doing it by mistake, but most restaurants are not going to make 100x, right? And so, but they'll give you a constant return. But that's not the people you're talking about who are going for AI-based investments and going to VCs, right? So for VCs, that's important. So they want to know, have you really hit upon a white space which is big enough?
Right.
Where now do you have the skills to build that company?
Right.
So you have to answer all these questions, right? In fact, it's interesting you ask this question because only, so I'm teaching a class with my colleague, Naeem Zafar. We teach this class called Mini MBA in Entrepreneurship for Thai Silicon Valley. And yesterday was the first week of the cohort. And there are like 5 things that we said you need to answer, right? Who is my customer? What pain does he or she have? How do they solve it today? And why my way of solving it is better? If I can answer that and how big is the opportunity? If I can answer this question very clearly, I can get investors to listen. But if I just say, you know what, I know this great AI tool and I have built this, AI product, and somebody's going to use it, and I don't know who, or it is a product for everybody, but really nobody, you're not going to succeed, right? I mean, you think about it, right? Let me give you an example, right? So I'm sure in your house, when you want to listen to good music, you don't buy that one boombox. You buy individual components of high quality, you put them together because you want to get the best music
Right.
to, hear, right?
Right.
You don't go for that little cheapy box which does this
Yeah.
thing, right? Sometimes that's okay, but most of the time, you want to go for that high-end stuff. You want to have that experience.
Experience.
So this is what it is about. You want to be the best, and people will take the best of everything, put it together, and really enjoy it.
Right.
So why not create the best? So
Yeah.
why are you best? You're not doing something just incremental. Now, sometimes you start with incremental stuff. You start to see how your customers respond. Because, if you look at Facebook, Facebook didn't start with all the 150 features that it has today, right? Didn't even know if it will ever, grow to the size. But they had a vision. But more than vision, they had a very big, narrow execution to start with. They focused on university students first. After they heard from the EDU domain that, hey, the product is really popular, these are the things people like, and they started changing it. And they evolved. And pretty soon they realized, hey, young people don't like us. Younger people are going to Instagram. That's why they ended up buying Instagram. And then they saw, WhatsApp was getting popular outside in the Western world, and they grabbed WhatsApp too. Right. So that's the process, right? But having the vision, so have the broadest possible vision, but your execution has to be very narrow, very local, one step at a time. Things are not built in a day. Rome was not built in a day. No startup gets built in a day. Whatever, whoever is telling you, those are exceptions to the rule. If you get lucky, great. If you can't, be an entrepreneur and only think luck will help you. You need luck, but luck alone cannot carry you. You need to have your thinking, your execution, your passion, and luck will help those who are really taking that.
That's wonderful to know. And finally, my final question is about mistakes. Now, every founder they stumble, but the key is to stumble forward when it comes to AI. Student entrepreneurs they may face a very unique type of pitfalls. So, from your experience, what are the common mistakes uh, you have come across that these founders, young founders, they make, and what lessons they should carry forward with them?
So I think like I mentioned to you earlier, it is pretty common in the AI world where somebody, and in fact, I know some of my experienced entrepreneur friends have made the same mistake, where they look at a version of ChatGPT and say, oh, by the way, this portion is really not good. You know what? I'm going to build that.
Hmm.
And they build it, and then ChatGPT comes up with version 5, and they look at it and go, oh my God, it is better than what I have.
Right.
So I don't have a company. Now I need to think again. And I think a lot of times these things happen because you never did your proper customer research. You did it on your gut level. You were only being driven by technology as opposed to trying to figure out what are the problems my customer might have. And so one thing for AI I can tell you is that a lot of companies that focus on vertical solutions, like if you go to the sake of the argument, you go to all the insurance companies, go figure out there are different There are brokers, there are companies that provide automatic insurance, there are other people. If you sit down with them and try to see what are the things they do every day, oh
Right.
my God, I can automate half of these things using AI. Why not start there? If I've solved a problem for one or two or three insurance companies, now for me to replicate to the next 10 and 100 is probably easier than me doing this tool and hoping somebody will come and knock on my door. So that's what I mean by I think the opportunity to change how work is done today in every sector and how it can be more efficient with AI. Restaurant ordering process, right? The whole thing, you can change that completely and make it more efficient. And so these are all the things that technology, the new AI technology enables. But we get caught in the main, you know, like as if everybody wants to build an open AI. No, 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 you don't. Focus on the problems that exist that you can solve now that the core technology is here.
Right. Yes.
So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And thank you so much. Now we have come to the close of the session. And thank you so much, sir, for your insights and for especially for giving me lessons from your experience, real-time experiences, because uh, that was able to make me connect, and I hope the students will also be able to connect with your insights today.
It's my pleasure, and I hope if I have made a difference in one person to think differently, then I think this was a success.
Yes, sir.
And I wish all of them the best of luck. I think entrepreneurship is an amazing journey. It has lots of ups and downs, but in the end, journey is the reward.
Absolutely.
So be with it.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Nice
Thanks.
talking to you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. And entrepreneurship in the age of Gen AI is not just about mastering technology, it is about vision, ethics, and the courage to experiment. And I'm sure our students and young founders listening today will walk away with a clearer path of shaping the future. To our audience, stay curious, keep building, and join us again for the next Power Talks. Thank you.